So this one wasn't too long ago. I was working with Mattis, my police canine, and then we were working, it was evening watch, and earlier in the night, and I didn't give much thought to it because as a canine unit, you're dispatched to only certain calls, like crimes in progress or types of calls where a canine can be utilized, or they'll call for you, like if they want you to do a drug sniff or things like that. But I did hear a call go out about a heroin overdose. But that's not something I would typically respond to as a canine unit. It was at a residence. There was someone overdosed, and so they sent police to try to get there as quick as possible. We carry Narcan, and so we can a lot of times intervene and help out. And they also send EMS and fire. This so happened to be right across the street from the fire station on Webbridge Road. Fire station beat us there, but the person was deceased, and it seemed of an OD. And it was just like one of those calls. You hear come out, and it's unfortunate, but it happens quite often, sadly. About an hour after that call, there's another call at the church that's right across the street from where the person had OD'd. And it was a carjacking. Now, this is something that we don't get in Alpharetta often. This would be something in progress that a canine might be useful, right? So if there's a carjacking, you think, well, they steal a car. If there's a pursuit that ensues afterwards, then a canine could be useful because if they jump out after terminating the pursuit, then a canine can track and be extremely useful in that situation. So this is something I had to, but it was delayed a little bit, and so we don't get the car in that location, but they gave out the description of the car. It was a Scion XB with a crack in the windshield, and it was a unique color. It was not something you always see. I think it was like a burnt orange Scion XB. And so we didn't find it at that moment, but I'm kind of thinking, okay, well, where are likely places it could go? And so I go out on a 400 southbound, south of the location that we were at. So I think south of Haynesbridge, and just kind of looking out. And this is later in the evening now. We're probably 2 a.m., so there's not a ton of cars that are on the road, and I can see basically everything that's going by. And we're getting to the point, though, that the time delay was so great that I was about to pack it up in, because if there was a carjacking, the guy is gone by now. Especially typically what happens is if there's a carjacking, they leave the area almost immediately. They want the car for a specific reason. And so I'm like, all right, we're 30 minutes delayed from when it actually happened. There's not very likely that he's out here. And then I see one more car coming down the road. What do you know? It's a burnt orange Scion XB with a crack in the windshield. So I asked dispatch one more time just to confirm the description of the car. And that's exactly what they give me. And they actually have a tag. And so I'm like, all right, well, let me pull out on 400 behind. And sure enough, same tag, same vehicle. I'm like, radio, I think I'm behind that vehicle. This is something you pursue, right? Because carjacking means that he pulled a weapon on someone and physically took possession of their vehicle. So we have a crime against a person and the theft of the motor vehicle. So this is a big deal. So I'm in it. There's cars that are coming to me, but the guy, as soon as he sees me, takes off. And so I'm in pursuit behind him, going southbound on 400, and we're in pursuit. I'm doing it. It's in the middle of the night. There is no one else on the road. It's just very easy to stay behind him. He's staying on 400. He gets off at the MARTA park and ride, and I'm like, oh yeah, this guy has no clue where he is. Like, the only thing he can do is either culminate the chase at the parking deck, which is a confined space. It's going to be easy to find him, not a problem. Or he can turn back northbound to where all my units are coming from, right? So this is great. But the guy makes a turn that surprises me, and he pulls into the parking deck. And it's, once again, this never happens, but he breaks through the guard arm, it goes flying through the air, and he starts driving up in the parking deck. Like, where are you going to go? Right? And so I'm behind him, and I'm in a larger vehicle. I was in a Ford Explorer at the time, actually, and I wasn't a big fan because they moved me from a Chevy Tahoe, which was very spacious, and my dog Mattis is huge. He's a big dog. There's lots of equipment you have to carry in the back, bite suits, training aids, all kinds of things for canines that you have to have in the back. And by the way, he's a champ in the back, right? He's not barking. He's just chilling in the back as we're pursuing this guy. But we're in this Ford Explorer. It's a little bit tighter. I wasn't the biggest fan. It did great in the pursuit, though. It was, it had nice features like Bluetooth radio and all this other stuff that I was like, that's nice, but I don't think it's good enough for my dog. We start going up in this parking deck, and he starts slowing, and he's looking behind me to see if I'm still behind him. I'm like, oh, yeah, this is my opportunity. I hadn't been pit trained at that time, so I'm like, I'm just going to ram this car because, this is a great place. There's no other vehicles. We're on the third level now, and so It was, I think, the middle of the week, so there weren't a lot of vehicles that were parked there. And so I'm like, this is the perfect opportunity to ram the vehicle, disable it, take the guy into custody. And so I punch the Ford Explorer, and I expected immediate response because that's what my Tahoe did. Ford Explorers kind of tell you to wait for a second, which I didn't know. And so I punched the accelerator to ram the guy, and the Ford Explorer is like, give me a second. And so the guy moves as I go to ram him, and I sideswipe a concrete pylon. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And this is all on the camera. I'm like, if this ends like this, I am in so much trouble, right? And I'm like, please don't let my car be disabled. Please don't let my car be disabled. And so it's still creeping. And apparently my maneuver confused the guy, right? Because he saw me disappear. Like, what is this guy doing? And so you can see him quizzically looking, and his vehicle is stopped. He's like looking down where I should have been, and I'm not there anymore because I just hit a pylon over here. I also see a gun in his right hand. So I'm now on the other side of him because I just hit a pylon, and I have a little bit of momentum. And so now the Explorer doesn't have to wait at all. And I just go full speed into the side of it. I'm like, I'm ending this. And I hit him, and I actually see the gun fly out of his hand. He jumps out of the vehicle and starts running. I jump out after him, and I have this great partner, police canine, with me who's faster than me and can catch this guy better than I can. And so I hit my door popper, which is this remote control on my door for it to fling open, and he knows he's supposed to run beside me. And so he jumps out and runs beside me, and the guy's running towards the elevator area of the MARTA park and ride, level 3. We start running, and I tell my dog, there's a few cars here sporadically, so I tell my dog, I give him the command to go apprehend, because like I said, he's faster than I am. He just kind of looks at me like, apprehend who? And I'm kind of getting upset. And then I realize, although I'm short, I can see over the vehicles. He can't see over the vehicles. And so he doesn't realize that we're chasing after someone. And so he just stays running by my side. And so the guy hits the stairwell and starts going down the stairwell. I'm right behind him. I'm going down the stairwell, but it's just far enough out of sight where Mattis doesn't see him. And so he goes down one level, goes to the door. I see the door closing. I come through. I go, and I caught him miraculously. And I tackle him to the ground, and I'm like, why hasn't my dog engaged, right? And so I'm on top of this guy now. I have him on the ground. He's still fighting a little bit, and then I see my dog with a shoe in his mouth. I'm like, what? What happened? I look down at the guy's foot, and he's got one shoe on because Mattis took the other shoe. But I'm like, why did you just grab one shoe? That's unbelievable. Like, you should be holding on to the shoe on his foot. And so he's running around, and I tell him, spit the shoe, get in the fight. So he jumps into the fight, grabs the guy. Then I could take control of him. I put him in cuffs. He had like all kinds of needles and stuff that were in his pockets. He was actually trying to come over on me and stab me. Mattis stopped the fight, which was fantastic. And then I looked down at his foot. He's actually got 2 holes in the top of his foot from where Mattis, I thought I was just fast, but apparently Mattis grabbed his foot, and that's what actually slowed him down enough that I could tackle him, and that's why he was running around with a shoe. But that was probably the most exciting, with, Mattis jumping in the fray. And I think the best part of the story, when we came out and down, we were on level 3, but apparently on one side of the MARTA park and ride, there's different ramps. So most of my backup couldn't get to me. And then there were some Sandy Springs guys that actually were the first ones on scene, they were super helpful. They came in and helped me take custody of the guy. And then an employee of MARTA came out, law enforcement officer. And they had, no joke, they had a napkin and they had a sandwich in their hand. They're like, we were looking for you. We saw it on the cameras. And so that was kind of my favorite part, was this punctuation of someone running in with the napkin tucked into their uniform and a sandwich in their hand, but hastily got to me and helped me out with the end result. So there you go.
Right now, I need all of you to click the link in the description below and visit Auto Tempest. Not only is it the best place to shop for your next car, but they're the ones that allow us to have so much fun doing Car Trek. I hope that you enjoyed Car Trek 8. We just released that on Freddie's channel, and now we're off to film 9 and 10. So seriously, we can't do it without you guys supporting Auto Tempest so they can keep supporting VINwiki and supporting Car Trek. It's honestly where I start most of my days because it allows me to search all the major listing sites at the same time. I find my cars faster, much more easily, and I find them in the nooks and crannies of the internet that I never would have found without Auto Tempest.